Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live. It is program number 8. It's great to have your company with us on this Wednesday night. Hello there, I'm Steve Hyland, and boy, we've got a cram-packed show for you this evening. One of the biggest problems I think that small businesses have, or any business for that matter, is getting in contact and staying in contact with their customers. That's one of the problems, but how do you go about collecting their names? How do you send out newsletters to tell them what your business is doing? How do you write compelling words that will make people want to stick with you, even just to read your copy? How do you go about doing that? Well, we're going to have all the answers for you this evening. I've got two fantastic guests with me tonight. Live here in the studio, I've got Steve Bridger. He's the author of Startup Business. Steve, hello. Great to have you with us tonight. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Yeah. You're live here in the studio. Obviously, I can reach out and touch you. Pinch me, I'll bleed.
I am alive.
You are alive, but only just, I can promise you. And in North Somerset, I do believe, we've got the fine Matthew Ruddle, Customer Service Director for InTouch CRM. Hi Matthew, how are you tonight?
Not too bad, thanks Steve.
Great to have you with us as well. Now Matthew, of course, InTouch CRM, you do all sorts of things like autoresponders, collecting names, all that old baloney, and you're going to tell us the best way that a small business can think about maybe getting to grips with that kind of technology, where they should go. Of course, that's going to be to you, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And Steve, you're going to be talking to us tonight about the written word. You've written a couple of books, actually, which is very interesting. One book we will discuss later on is Success Before Startup. If you are a new startup business, this is a fantastic book. It's got worked examples inside of it that tell you really the kind of things you should be considering before you start your business. But the one that caught my eye this evening is this one, Fast Track Your Business Writing Skills. Now, both these books together we're going to be discussing as the night goes on, but what's good about both of these, they give you advice, they give you helpful advice that's going to steer you in the right direction. So if you get the words right, then Matthew and his team and his business are going to make certain that you can actually collect your customers' names, and then you can do something with that. You can send out that newsletter, that compelling newsletter that's going to make people keep coming back to your business. So that's what we've got lined up on the program this evening. Once again, it's great to have you with us. But I'll tell you what, last week was a huge success as well. Thank you very much for all the views that we've had on YouTube. That was fantastic. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, will you? Thank you very much. We were talking all about SEO, search engine optimization. What's that all about then? How do you go about it? If you missed the program, here's a little bit of a teaser what happened last week when I was speaking to Andy Williams from Kuzai, and you can find out what happened on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Search engine optimization. Now, if you're not into this, don't worry. This isn't going to be just an hour of complete tech. What we're talking about here are things that you can do proactively, that you can use on your website that'll increase traffic. Things have actually been happening as far as Google is concerned that may affect your page's rankings. So what does that mean? What's that all about? What's a ranking in the first place? Andy Williams, the digital marketing manager from Kuzai, is with us. Andy, it's great to have you with us this evening. Search engine optimization. Yep. What does that mean then?
Basically, it's an art that allows you to make sure that your site is relevant and is found by Google and other search engines, so that you can appear for search terms that people are looking for your site for. All the tactics Google don't want you to do, and it's an art in itself. A lot of people frown on it and say, there's no room for black hat, but in all honesty, it does have its place and it can be effective. But for long-term investment, long-term gain, long-term rankings, don't go near it, because you will get caught up very, very quickly by Google. What you need to do is stay within the rankings and use ethical SEO tactics, which is what we look into. The time that you become relevant is when Google knows exactly where you're searching from. So what we've seen with the Venice update that came out quite a while back, I think 2012, but a lot of people missed it, was that now you don't actually need to be logged in order for Google to give you local results. So this has kind of changed everything, because local results are now pushing down the more generic rankings. So you could well be missing out on traffic that you thought you were otherwise getting. So because Google knows where you are because of your IP, it will then register what your postcode is and it's basically the companies that are closest to the IP that is searching will be favorited in the search results. But there's two ways of looking at your blog. If you can't maintain your blog, then don't have one. But in the same breath, it's really important that you do have one, because it creates content that Google can come regularly and crawl. You can do so many things with a blog. You can outreach to people that you wouldn't otherwise be able to with your site. You can answer questions that people might be asking that are relevant to your products or even the sector that you're in. But like I said, if you can't maintain it, then the last thing I want to see when I go to a site is that the last blog update was 2012. That just says to me that people aren't looking after their site.
It's a bit of a click moment, isn't it?
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah. So if I see that, I'm probably not going to trust the site that much. When Google ranks something, they're ranking a page, they're not ranking a site. Your overall site strengths has a say in how strong your pages within the site are. But basically, when you search for something, you get returned a page. So effectively, you could rank really well for one page on your site, and the rest of the site's nowhere to be found. That's plausible. That's something that could happen. The things that you should be looking to do is make sure that your on-page optimization is up to date. Make sure that you've got all your local information on your site. If you can have a blog and you can keep it updated, then make sure you have one of those as well. And have a look at the rich snippets and the data highlighter as well. If you can get local listings from the kind of sites like Yale.com or Yelp, then make sure you can create profiles on there. Make sure that the information on there is completely filled out and the address on there is exactly the same as the one that you've got on your website. And if you do nothing else, make sure that you go onto Google and you create all the Google profiles that you can. And again, make sure that all the information on there is relevant and up to date.
Watching Business Connections Live. Steve Hunt with you here. And it's great to be with you now. Our guest this evening, Matthew Ruddle, Customer Service Director, InTouch CRM, and Steve Bridger, author of Step Up to Business. May as well get it right at the very beginning. Now, let's differentiate between you two guys, really what we're talking about here. If we talk to you, first of all, Matthew, really what we're talking about is the technology that delivers the message, isn't it? Just describe what your system does.
So our system basically allows people to take that information that they gain from their websites and business events and then actually make use of it. So send out great looking email communications that are all manageable and trackable. So you know what's working and what's not working, and you can track that success. And that's essentially what we help customers do.
So Matthew, tell me, what's the difference then between, should we say, just sending out a mail shot using my email system as opposed to using your system? What's the big difference there?
Well, not to get too technical, but the way emails are actually delivered from things like Outlook is completely different and can lead to very bad places like blacklisting, even crashing your email system. So the way that we do it is we work with the ISPs to make sure that the emails get out there in a nice, quick, manageable way to get better deliverability and success.
So I would imagine that that's one part of it, is actually collecting, is actually getting the emails out. The first part must be actually collecting people who come to your websites, name, future customers, building business. How does that work? Because this is this magical word that you hear so much, autoresponder. What the heck's an autoresponder?
Well, if you think that your website is your shop window, so you've got lots of traffic coming through, looking at your website, and collecting that information is absolutely key. So whether you've got a website form on there is great, but it's what you actually do with that, and that's where an autoresponder can come into it. Because an autoresponder is effectively a sequence of emails that get kicked off when that person signs up for your website. So when they put their information into that form, it kicks off all these emails from start to finish and starts to communicate and build those relationships with them effectively by not doing too much.
Do you reckon it's for any business, or is it for specific businesses? Because it sounds quite techy. I'm sure you're going to tell me it's very easy to set up, but could all businesses, do you think, benefit from that kind of technology that your company provides?
Most definitely. I mean, email marketing used to be seen as something for big business. And with it came that cost. Whereas now, I mean, you look at our client base and we've got, say, one-man cleaning companies right the way through to multinational organizations using our system because it's all manageable and it's all easy. And it's the same system from that one person using it to 30, 40 user systems.
So we've got a way that we can send out a series of emails. The other thing that we've also got with InTouch CRM, and because you're one of the large autoresponder suppliers, aren't you? But
yeah.
the other thing as well is newsletters. And I suppose a lot of people get into autoresponders initially by having the technology to send newsletters out.
Yeah, definitely. It's all part and parcel of the same system. I mean, at the end of the day, an autoresponder is an email. So being able to send those ad hoc newsletter campaigns is just as important and just as an essential part of your business.
Listen, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the business and the key things that make you different from maybe some of the other people that are out there. Also the fact that you're English as well, which is rather nice, isn't it? Because there's quite a lot of American companies that are out there and they do things kind of slightly differently, don't they?
Yeah.
He says candidly. I mean, I suppose really if you're looking at the tools, or maybe if you're looking at the sword that's actually going to be sending out the information for you, that's going to be the tool that's sending it out. I suppose, Steve, you're the guy that actually puts the edge on the sword because that edge is the thing that cuts through the clutter and, of course, makes people respond, isn't it? The words are important.
Well, that's very, very well put. Well put, because the thing is you've got the technology, you've got the functionality, but of course what I would do, and in terms of the things which really gives you a total rounded package, is then looking at, if you like, the conviviality of it all. So you've got the functionality, the conviviality. And what I mean by that is how approachable you are, what messages you put across, using the right sort of tone of voice, the right language, saying the things that people, want to hear. And it's all about, if you like, translation. And the job that needs to be done is, if you like, translating what people or businesses want to say into what people want to hear. Mm-hmm. And it is that magical. It's that spinning.
Is that written in the book anywhere?
That's in the book.
I'm just checking. It's in there. That's good. That's what we do.
And it's a question of actually using the right language, not great big words, not actually long sentences, not long paragraphs. It's actually putting together in a very sort of forceful, entertaining, sometimes pithy way, that suddenly all the things that are doing are no longer machines talking to you, but real people talking to you and saying things that you really want to say and people want to hear. And so you engage with them. It's all about interconnectedness.
I mean, what we've seen in the past is there are a lot of people out there, when they write their website, they write it in such a way that it is all about their history. They've been here since 300 years. We've got 500 people working for us. We've got vans with wheels on, and in fact nobody's ever searched on any of that information, have they?
No, and what happens is that I wrote a website recently for a will writer, and he had gave me all his information and everything, and I said, Jura, there's so much here that in fact nobody needs you at all, because you've told it all, you've loaded the website with so much different information that it's just not going to work. You just don't need it. And so he had to pare it right the way back so that he actually could say what he did. The human element, once again, is machines and humans working together.
Matthew, I would imagine that when you're obviously you've got the business there and you are the provider of the service that is delivering these messages, but do you ever find yourself maybe just putting your hands in the air and going, really, these people are misusing it? And do you give advice to your customers on how they should be writing effective messages when they're sending out newsletters and emails?
Definitely. I mean, we see a lot of emails coming in. Some have very little content and very little call to actions. Some are literally war and peace, and the chances of people reading them are few and far between. So it is that fine line. I mean, the words and the content of an email are absolutely vital to any campaign.
I'm amazed that people actually will write short emails or short newsletters that are content free, but we see that even on something as simple perhaps maybe as eBay, where people are trying to sell something and they just put down a single line description of it without trying to paint a little bit of magic. It's all about selling the sizzle, isn't it?
Stories. It's all about telling stories as well and engaging people. And I think the key thing about it is that the sort of work that that Matthew does in allowing everybody and creating this wonderful platform is a question of using the platform properly and realizing that everything has to be really of the same feeling, the same design, and so all the brand values that you would normally see in people's websites, on their advertising or in their posters or whatever they do, must go right the way down and filter right the way down to the emails and to the autoresponders. And what happens sometimes is that people are creating very, very small, sort of very functional, sort of machine-created information that people don't really want. I mean, can I tell you a quick story about this?
If you must.
I must, because it's about, and it's a way that actually it's a pitfall that you must avoid at all costs. And it was told to me on Friday, actually by somebody who'd actually did this. I'm not making this up. This is a real live case study. And what happened is that somebody had been blown away by one of the companies that stream movies, that you can pay the monthly subscription on. And it's all about the excitement, the sex, and the fun of and enjoyment of Hollywood and wonderful things like that. And they bought into that and said, great, I'm going to get the latest releases. I'm going to be part of it. I really want to be part of it. And so they signed up. And so then they paid for the subscription, and then they got the auto responders back that sort of was saying, thank you very much. This is a computer talking to you now. This is a machine talking to you. And it lost all the brand values.
All the credibility.
All the excitement, all the things that made you want to do it. And it wasn't actually reflected at all by the other messages that were put across.
But I suppose the thing is that, Matthew, you must see that all the time. You've already said that you see some war and peace, but there is a happy medium in there somewhere, isn't there, where people do think constructively and actually think about what their customers want to find out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, some of our customers really use the tool well. I mean, they are extremely creative. They can write quirky emails that really touch base, because as Steve said, it's a human approach, and that's where things like personalization really come into it. But you've got to forget the mechanism almost of how it's being sent out, and just remember that it's still you communicating with the customer.
It's very true. And it's interesting, we were talking there about websites. We've got the InTouch CRM website sitting here on the laptop. And I was just looking at the way, by the way, congratulations on the fact that you're an award-winning organisation. Congratulations on that. But it's nice saying social CRM plus email marketing, file storage and calendar. Yes, the main things people want to find out quickly. Attract and convert more customers. Straight to the jugular there. There's a call to action. Do I want to attract customers? Yes, I do. Do I want to convert them? Yes, I do. Do I want to increase my customer spend with me? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want a business that's successful. Once again, going for the jugular and a real call to action. And probably the one that we're all guilty of sometimes is the fact that you've got there, do more in less time, because it can nearly be doing a lot of the selling and a lot of the communication for you while you're not even thinking about it, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've touched upon autoresponders, and we refer to them in the office as marketing in your sleep, because you set them up with a key message, something that's really connects with the customer, and you let them roll. You collect that information from a form, and they do half the work for you.
Well, I mean, Steve, let's talk about some of the words, because we've got the technology there with InTouch CRM. And we'll go back to the website, because I can see here that you've actually got free trials and everything like that. So if people want to try it out, they can. We'll have a look at a few of the other pages. The nice thing about InTouch CRM, and this sounds like I'm doing a selling job now, but you've got all the statistics there, haven't you? The analytics to see exactly who's opening your emails, where they're going, and who's actually responding to them. So we'll come back and talk more about that. But let's talk about that sharp edge to the sword, Steve.
Absolutely.
What are the words that make people do something?
Well, I think it's the words that basically they resonate with them. And so that the key thing for the writer, and clearly for whoever is trying to promote their brand and their product and everything, it has to be in sync with what they're trying to do. It has to be the right tone of voice, as I mentioned before, but it has to respect them and talk to them, and really create, in the first element of it, is to create the relationship, then build on the relationship, and then maintain the relationship. And so it is a conversation, a continuing conversations, and so that you try to strip out, if you like the selling, the hard sell, and it's very, very much about building relationships to people that you feel comfortable with, that you've got confidence with. If you listen to, and look at all the John Lewis adverts, for example, and the way that they actually talk to people, they bring them in, it's all about storytelling. And if you do that effectively, then you build trust. And if you build trust, then you build confidence. And if you build confidence, you build relationship which is going to last. So all of these things need to be thought about. And importantly, when you're talking about the sort of weapons that you've got in your arsenal that for a CRM that InTouch do, it's about how you use them and use them selectively, and how you also give help, advice, guidance to the people that you're working with and trying to communicate with, and so that they feel that they are part of it rather than just somebody feeding your bottom line in terms of profits.
I mean, you've been a copywriter for a long time, and you must sometimes be presented with content, and people say, look, there we go, actually that's what I want, that's the copy I want.
Yeah.
What are the big howlers and the big mistakes that people make?
Well,
I mean, it's interesting that you say, for instance, that people use a different language when they're writing.
Yeah.
When we do media training here, the moment you put a microphone in front of somebody, they start to speak differently. They use long words that they don't normally use, and you can see that they're uncomfortable in delivering the message. So what are the howlers then that you come
Well, the
across?
first thing I say to people is it's not Shakespeare. You know, you can't overcomplicate things. You can't actually suddenly go into some sort of great prose using great technical language. You know, you've got to do something that, even though, I mean, the skill of it is to talk about something which is technical, which is perhaps difficult, and to put it in a way that people can actually understand. And so it's as the writer, and as the people who are doing something, you are the messenger. You're the eros, if you like, and you've got to think about not what you do, but how it's actually going to be received. And it's not what you say, it's what people hear. And that's the crucial thing. And a number of times I've been given, clients have come into me and said, right, here you are, this is it, this is what I want you to say. And it bears no relationship, and it will not create any relationship at all with the people that you want to connect with, because it goes right over their head, or it's too cold. There's no emotion, there's no humanity in it at all. And sometimes people, I mean, when I started my career, I started with College, CDP, and years ago, but everything we did there was fun. And it's all exciting and interesting, and it made people smile. And because you're actually entertaining them, then they're listening. And because of you're making that thing about getting people involved with you, you had them, and then they liked you, and they build confidence, and so they you know, it builds the whole brand ethos.
Selling the love is what it's all about.
Selling the love.
Selling the love, selling
That's
that
right.
sizzle, and making people respond.
But
to what you're
the
saying.
thing I would say, if there's any people watching tonight who are actually briefing CRM and briefing, you know, autoresponders, to give it as much care, as much attention as they do with their normal media plan. And so the crossover goes right the way through, from their conventional media to their social media, right the way down to, so if they get any from this company at all, it's all the same. And it's all giving you the same excitement, the same thing, it's showing the same care for you as an individual person, not as a customer. It's talking to them as if you're a real human being, and I'm talking across the table, having a cup of tea, as we're talking now. That's what you should be trying to do. You strip it all out and make it simple.
Well, you're talking, I'm listening actually, and I'm writing it all down as well for that matter. Matthew, do you think people actually do spend enough time putting their campaigns together when they're using your system, or any system for that matter?
Yes and no. I mean, there can be the general consensus that sometimes it's a case of, oh no, I've got to get a communication out, and therefore they'll rush it and they'll just dump a load of words together. Whereas you can see some campaigns that actually flow, and they flow from week to week, and they've actually been really well thought out. And exactly as Steve says, they've had that fun, and they put that kind of soul almost into the email. And you know, those are the best campaigns to see going out, because then even we'll look at the stats and we'll go, wow, that's a great campaign. And you know, we'll want to shout about it, and we'll take those examples and we'll try and work with the customers to move them along and try and raise their game in terms of each communication.
I tell you what we must do. We must actually talk about the process that people go through when they come to you and what most customers are looking for. I mean, maybe we should actually kick that off right now, in fact. So when they come to you initially, what's the initial thing that makes them pick up the phone to ring you or to sign up online? Is it the fact that they want a business newsletter that they can send out to an existing database? Is it about that they want to grow a database to send a newsletter out to? Or is it that they're coming to you to say, right, we're going to use your autoresponder, so when people sign up, I can then have a dialogue with the customers I got. What's the main thing that drives them towards you?
It's a bit of all three, really, because you get some people come along and they've already done some of the hard work. They've already collected a lot of the information, but it's what they actually do with it and making that information work for them. And that's the key. And then you get some people coming along and say, well, I've got this great website that I've spent a lot of time and effort putting together, but I'm missing opportunities, and I'm missing the people coming to my doorstep who want to get extra information, who want to potentially buy from me, but are not yet ready. So that's where they get the forms and the newsletters and then the autoresponders, so they can start to build on it.
I suppose it's really important because just because you've sent them an email on a Monday doesn't mean that they're going to be in the position to even think that they want to buy something until maybe the Thursday or the Friday or the week after. So I suppose having an autoresponder that's continuously sending out information, it puts you in a better position to sell something on, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, one of the analogies that we use for marketing, and certainly for autoresponders, is almost comparing them to a boxing match. And I'm not saying you need to go and start knocking your customers out or your potential customers out.
It might help some of them, though.
Maybe it's a decision maker. But you could waste all your time and effort on that one big campaign, that go for that knockout blow. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, you've wasted all your time, your energy, your resources going for that knockout blow. And that's where autoresponders, which are your regular jabs, communicating and reminding people that you're there, that you have these services, these products, and just giving them a little nudge every now and then to say, look, you may not be ready to buy from me today, but actually I'll send you an email in 3 weeks' time as part of this actual automated sequence that actually encourages them and touches that nerve and actually closes that gap between you and them and builds that relationship.
I suppose it's all down to repetition, isn't it, as well? You're getting the same message out over and over again, and a bit like advertising, it takes 3 or 4 times for someone to see an ad before they respond to it.
Well, it may not be, the word repetition is wrong. I think the thing you have to do is repeat and maintain the messages, and to change the messages, because a lot of people, if you look at the sort of classic salespeople, they will say to you, well, it may take X number of times before you've got somebody interested, then a further Y number of times before you've got them really interested, and then you have to do it a little bit more before they convert, before they buy. So it's not necessarily a quick hit and a quick results. You know, you have to maintain the pressure, and you have to keep things going, and that means as you do that, you have to be sort of flexible in your thinking in terms of your marketing strategy, your planning, the way that you promote, in terms of putting things together, say for example, you know, with a seasonal twist to it or a Christmas twist to it, or something that relates to the way things are happening. You know, I mean, for example, I mean, this is just playing a game here for a moment. Only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? On the 22nd of October, we all put our clocks back. You know, there may be something in spring, and there may be something in, so it's spring forward, fall back, isn't it? So, you know, the old thing you remember from school. So you may pick up on things that are happening, you know, around you that are relevant to people, and that you want to pick up, and it could be seasonal, it could be that, and that way you once again maintain interest but maintain pressure at the same time.
And that really is important. One thing that sometimes goes completely unknown is when you do send out that email, that touch point for your customer, you just don't know whether they've actually touched it. You don't know whether they've opened the email. You don't. For instance, in newsletters, you have read more links and things like that, and you have no idea whether your customer, the potential customer, has actually gone to that link and clicked on it. Can InTouch CRM, can you provide some way of measuring whether links are opened on the newsletter?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, that's one of our kind of wow factors, is the fact that you not only get the top level information of, you know, how many total people have actually opened your email or clicked links, but you can even drill down into the detail, and you can then regroup people, because as Steve was saying, you've got different messages, different times of the year. You've also got different messages to different actual customer demographics. And that's where you can use the stats to find out and regroup people so that you can send out very segmented, very targeted messages to touch that nerve, to draw people towards you.
How difficult is it to actually set your system up then? Is it, or any autoresponder system for that matter, is it difficult to actually do it? Or is it just a case of working your way methodically through a series of steps to actually get to an end result?
It's very simple, but then again, I would say that. The most difficult part of setting up any email campaign, let alone an autoresponder, is the content, because it's having you sit there thinking about it. And that's where someone like Steve can really come into it, because you can give him all the ideas and he'll knit them all together into a fantastic message and a fantastic sequence. But it is just a case of working it through in that logical process and saying, well, at what stage do I want to start moving people along, and when do I want to communicate with them once they've joined the process?
Now, the thing that I've noticed on the website, I was just looking at the page here, InTouch CRM Email Marketing Resources, and you've got a whole, you're not starting from scratch when you join, are you? For instance, there is a campaign builder template. What does that do?
So basically, that helps people bring some logic to a campaign and kind of tries to nudge them in the right direction and score their campaign. So we ask them about their subject lines, about their actual target audiences, to try and just steer them down this route. Also on that page there, you've got a marketing calendar, because as Steve mentioned, that you need this consolidated view almost of all your marketing going out, because you need that consistency, not just for your brand, but actually your core messages as well.
And do you think people understand all this about this call to action that we're talking about? Steve's mentioned it so far today, and I remember in my TV shopping days, you'd say things like, so, by now, you've made up your mind that you want this book. And you would kind of do subliminal messages that would be going out to your audience, using a little bit of NLP. In fact, we're going to be having a program all about NLP in a couple of weeks' time, well worth watching. But is it all about subliminal messages, that call to action, or is it just about coming straight out and going, listen, do you want this or don't you? When shall I deliver it? Thursday or Friday? What colour would you like, blue or green? Is it all about proper calls to action, is it, and not hiding it anymore? What do you reckon, Matthew?
Yeah, it's a mixture sometimes. It really depends on your target customer base, but sometimes, we've tried it ourselves as little experiments, as we often do, of just actually trying to strip away some of that mystery, and it's not a case of giving a Rubik's Cube to somebody and say, well, solve that, and you'll find out when to sign up and when to buy something. Sometimes you just need to come out with it and just say, look, click it to buy now. Really clear messages.
Do you find that in what you do? Because you've been a copywriter as well. Okay, you've written the books about business writing skills, but really, it's a lot of this is common sense, isn't it? But sometimes we're just a little bit backward in coming forward to actually ask what we want for.
Well, it depends on what your aim is. Clearly, if you're in the mail order business, it's all about turn, it's all about conversions, and it's all about hitting the targets. And you turn on to the television and you've got all the programs and channels selling jewellery through the day, or keep fit machines, or whatever it may be. They are geared to selling, and of course then there's no subtlety necessarily in that. It's here it is, this is the product, this is the price, this is the promotion. If you want it, you can spread it over whatever it may be, and it's all linked to getting the conversions and getting the sales.
But the thing that's interesting about that is, when we did a sales program a couple of weeks back, the thing that was interesting is that on TV, as a salesperson, there are 6 defined steps. That's what you actually get. 6 defined steps, and at the beginning of each of those steps, you put the proposition down and you go for the close. Yeah. Proposition, close, proposition, close. So you are forever asking them to actually pick the phone up and the call.
That's right. And at the end of it, normally you say, right, here it is, but now we're not going to do you this. We're going to give you an even better thing to make sure you do it now.
Yes, indeed.
So it is the prompting and the conversion. But clearly it depends on, what market you're in, what niche, what micro niche you're into that. And so when you're developing messages for people, male, female, young, old, ethnicity, whatever it may be, you have to always be thinking about them. And one of the big mistakes that people make, clients make, companies make, is they say, well, this is what we do. This is what we do, and this is what we've got.
But are there words out there that you can use? I suppose people sitting there they're sitting with their notepad right now, watching this, and they're going, "Come on, give us the words then."
Yeah.
What are the words that we use in our emails?
Well, there are, but let me just finish what I was just about to say there before you get on to me. The client says. And it comes back to what you're saying. The client says, right, this is us, is what we do. But there's two fantastic words that are missing from it. It's the client is thinking and the customer is thinking, this is what we do for me. This is what I'm going to do, what benefit I'm going to get. What is it? Why should I listen to you? How are you going to actually do something which gives me advantages, gives me benefits, that improves my life? I know what you do as a client.
What's in it for the customer?
What's in it for me?
Yeah,
and why should I listen to you? And the words that you're talking about is giving that raison d'etre, is giving that backup, giving that support, giving that information. And obviously it depends on the client, it depends on the product. I mean, I've worked on, beers, I've worked on, girls' stuff, I've worked on women's stuff, I've worked on so many different things. And you have to really just morph your brain into what it is you think the people want. And you have to do your research, and you have to get that empathy between what you want to do, what the client wants to do, what your messages are, to what people want to hear. Back again, that translation point that I mentioned earlier on. And it's all about that weaving that magic.
I'll tell you what, the nice thing about tonight's programme, I've had to do very little work. I've got two fantastic guests as always, and that's what's making it so easy, but also very interesting. Hopefully by now we've whetted your appetite. If you want to find out more about InTouch CRM, then we're going to give you the web address and everything like that you're going to need to go online. Also, we'll have that on the website too. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find it in the documentation, or at least the written words below this particular video. But fascinating. I don't know what you're doing right now to market your business, but have you thought about using autoresponders? Have you thought about the effectiveness and the power of using newsletters? If you haven't, maybe now's the opportunity, maybe now's the time for you to start thinking about that. If you've thought to yourself it's going to be too difficult to manage it, to manage new names, to build lists, because at the end of the day, most businesses these days are nothing more than their list of customers. And it's that holds the value for your business. Remember, if somebody buys something from you, in the future, they are a qualified purchaser from you. They're going to be easier to sell to. Well, wouldn't it be great if you've got a product from Matthew who is repeatedly sending them emails and newsletters, but not spamming them, and you've got words the like that Steve has written to make absolutely certain that they cut through the clutter, that they cut through the other email spam that they get, that actually delivers a message that they want to hear and that they will react to. And that's what this is all about, communicating with your customers, doing it effectively and doing it easily so that you can make more money for your business. You're watching Business Connections Live. Matthew Ruddle, our Customer Service Director, InTouch CRM. He's our guest. He's in North Somerset. Nice weather down there.
Bit black and windy at the moment, Steve, unfortunately.
Serves you right. And up here in London, Steve Bridget, author of Step Up to Business. Keep saying startup.
Yeah.
It's because it's written there. Step Up to Success. Steve Bridget. Now, it's time to find out what happened during the week. A lot's been going on as far as the news is concerned, and with an update of what's been happening over the past 7 days, here's Linda Bazant.
Hello, I'm Linda Bazant with the latest business news for Business Connections Live on Wednesday, the 6th of November 2013. We start with news for those of us that use social media, in particular Twitter. With Twitter gearing up to float, it seems it could be at risk of a user backlash over its plans to widen its advertising, after revealing it would target every business on the planet. The warning comes after Twitter revealed plans to target small and medium businesses throughout Europe, the Middle East and Africa. Revealing the details in a Dublin-based job advert, the company said Twitter is on a mission to #reach every person on the planet. And the SMB sales team's job is to make sure that Twitter reaches every business on the planet. However, concerns have been raised that user feeds may be swamped with advertising. PR and branding expert Mark Borkowski said there's a real risk of a backlash by serving up too many adverts. A warning has also been made that small and large companies may be ill-prepared to defend themselves against Twitter trolls. Recently, British Gas was bombarded with hostile tweets after a price rise, and small companies are also susceptible to negative comments from Twitter trolls. Experts warn that Twitter also needs to recognise the potential problem and help brands, and not just plunder them for revenue. And on the subject of advertising, Tesco is installing face scanning technology at its petrol stations to target advertisements to individual customers at the till. The technology, made by Lord Sugar's digital signage company Amscreen, will use a camera to identify a customer's gender and approximate age. It will then show an advertisement tailored to that demographic. Tesco says the screens will be rolled out across all of its 450 forecourts in the UK and expect to reach 5 million customers. A government plan to cap charges on workplace pensions would stymie competition, hit small businesses and could drive prices higher, according to the Chief Executive of Royal London, the mutual insurer. Phil Loney called on the Department for Work and Pensions to abandon a proposal that could lead to customers paying a maximum annual management charge of 0.75%. Royal London think it is the wrong approach in a market where prices are falling. Instead of introducing price controls, the DWP should force companies that operate schemes to shop around at least every 5 years to check that they have a competitively priced deal. A new survey out this week suggests activity in the UK services sector last month increased at its fastest rate since May 1997. The market CIPS PMI Services Index rose to 62.5 in October from 60.3 in September, beating forecasts of 59.8. Readings higher than 50 indicate growth. Markets said the services sector, which accounts for around 3/4 of the economy, was the major driving force behind the UK's economic upturn. The upside of this trend could be that the Bank of England may revise up its quarterly growth forecasts next week. Also, alongside strong activity in manufacturing and construction, the results indicated quarterly economic growth of 1.3%, up from 0.8% between July and September this year. And private sector businesses are creating 1,000 new jobs every day. The UK is set to grow faster than any other Western economy, according to the ICAEW, the body representing English and Welsh accountants. The report identified signs of rising business confidence. Its view of the economy mirrors that of the CBI, whose recent assessment also suggests a strong pickup in growth and said that the UK economy was recovering at a slow and steady pace. If you have any comments or views on today's news, please contact us on all social media or email the studio at studio@businessconnectionslive.com.
And my thanks to Linda Bazant for the news. Just before we get back to our conversation, on next week's show we've got Kate Lester. She's the MD of Same Day Courier and Logistics Business, Diamond Logistics, and Kate was recently named Entrepreneur of the Year in the first ever National Entrepreneur Awards, so really going to be worthwhile watching. And Mark Pearson, Chief Executive of Surrey Connect, whose mission is to sharpen Surrey's competitive edge and pursue trade and inward investment opportunities to secure our future in the global marketplace. We'll be finding out what all that means next week on the programme. So you're watching Business Connections Live. This is Business Connections Live number 8. My guest this evening, Matthew Ruddle, Customer Service Director, In Touch CRM, and Steve Bridger, author of
Success Before Startup.
Success Before Startup. Whoever wrote that's going to have to be fired, I think, down there. Because I haven't been getting it right all evening then, have I?
That's one of the email addresses.
Yeah.
That's the book.
There's the book, Success Before Startup. And that's it. Well, I'm reading it from the back here. Success Before Startup.
That's right.
Listen, before we go any further, let's talk a little bit more about the books as well. What have we got? What do you get in this one, in this particular edition?
Right.
What's this about?
The whole point about that, as the title suggests, is that it stops people falling into great big holes to make the mistakes, to avoid the pitfalls that cripple most new business startups. Okay, so first of all, it pins up, it says to people, right, these are the 7 things that normally kill businesses and the big mistakes that people make. And because they know them, they can avoid them. All right. The other thing is that within the book, I've identified 7 of the most popular ways that people go into business. So whether it's starting a franchise, opening a shop, going into sort of trade services or professional services, or whatever it may be, they're real life case stories of people who have done it and who have set up their own businesses, and they tell the stories about why they did it go well, and then I asked them because I've sat down with them all and had cups of coffee and we've chatted for lots of time, and then they've said to me, I said to them, well, would you do it again? And then they'll say, well, yes, but I would do it differently. And it's real people giving real stories of real life. And when we're talking about success, everybody says, well, what does success mean to you? For most of these people, it's a lifestyle thing that they set up their own businesses. And if at the end of every month, they've made money, they've covered their costs, they've got their lifestyle, they've got their way that they can go home feeling happy, and they've got enough for a chicken tikka masala, they are happy. And so a lot of people, believe it or not, that is their definition of success, because they've created something that they control, that they've created from nothing, and they continue to live it without being sort of controlled by other people, without any sort of managed way that they can look after themselves. And so the book tells them all of that, and then also it goes through the 4 factors of startup success. The 4 factors being the human factor, the marketing factor, the financial factor, and the planning factor. And at the end of all of that, they will be in a position where they can go out and actually start their own business.
I must admit, looking down the contents of this, it is absolutely fascinating and beautifully laid out as well, for that matter. The parting point, how to cut problems down to size, how to prioritise time to work more effectively, even right down to signing off, Startup Success Year 1, introducing the next book in the series. I mean, everything is actually in there that you're going to need when it comes to starting. But I love the idea of the fact that it is also from real people, real small businesses. So it's going to be absolutely perfect for anyone who wants to start a business, isn't it?
In their words, that's right. And I say it's real life. It's not, and of course some of those people are going to go on to be multimillionaires and fantastic, but everybody has to start in the same place. And the place they start is normally without much knowledge at all. And if they read that book or read books like it, then they will be in a situation where they won't actually fall down and die. They can be able to pick up, carry on, and avoid the mistakes that so many people make.
So if they want to get hold of a copy of this, where can they get hold of it?
Well, it's on Amazon.
Right.
They can do Success Before Startup, and that is available both in the paperback form and on Kindle.
So it is available right across the board then.
Yeah.
Fantastic book. If you do want to get hold of your copy of it, just go to Amazon, and I'll hold it up so you can actually read it. Success Before Startup is the name of the book. Steve Bridger is the guy's name that you actually want to be looking for as well. Great book. If you want to get hold of your copy, if you're thinking about maybe starting a business, then that's going to be ideal for you. Matthew, let's talk a little bit about your business, because we mentioned earlier on that you are award winners. It says here, we're delighted to announce that InTouch CRM have won a Software Satisfaction Award, an award made all the more special as the result was based on the user votes. Thanks to everyone who supported us. Tell us a little bit about that from your point of view, because I think that gives an air of confidence when it comes to using and dealing with your organisation. Tell us why you got the award and what made you so special and different.
Well, first of all, it's a massive thing for us because it was voted for by our customers. So that means that hopefully they've got some faith in us, and we've brought them success as well. So, I mean, the award was for CRM and customer service basically as well. So not only saying that our system is good, but the backup and the support that we give people from our company as well is just as good with it as well.
Listen, from the pair of you, I need a bit of a strategy now. So I'm a small business owner. I've come to you and I want to get something sorted out. Matthew, I'll come to you first because you're going to be setting up the technology of it. Steve then will talk to you about actually putting together what I need to be considering. So Matthew, I want to increase my sales. I want to talk to my customers on a regular basis. What have you guys got to offer me? What would you suggest I start with from your stable of products that you've got?
Well, quite simply, start with the free trial. It's the full fat version of our system, so you get all the things from autoresponders, email campaigns, all of that stuff, and you can start with it straight away. Just a couple of email addresses in there, and you can start communicating. But the key thing. Oh, sorry, Steve.
No, I was going to say, and what about the advice that you've got there as well? That you've got all these other things like the campaign builder, the email marketing webinar. That's a good idea. Email marketing ebook. Are all these different guides and everything that you've actually got? Are they all completely free to your users?
Yeah, all completely free. We keep putting new ones together all the time, and we also run weekly webinars as well, where customers can come on and they can learn different parts of the system, from back to the basic course, learning from A to B, but also showing how to use autoresponders or email campaigns, or actually taking it to another level and saying how you can do more advanced things with your campaigns to get better results as well.
Typically then, if I'm coming to you, then I've got a clean sheet of paper. What would you advise to me? What would be your advice to me? Would you say you need a series of 12 letters that you're going to be sending out, or 20 letters? You need to be doing a monthly newsletter. Is that the kind of advice you're going to be giving?
Yeah, it's also going to be about actually looking at your customer base, because every industry has different customers, and you've got to put yourself in their shoes. As Steve was saying, put yourself in their position so that you know what to kind of expect, and then start to work it backwards from there.
All right, so it really is as straightforward. It's as much as I want it to be.
Yeah.
All right, so I've decided then, I've spoken to Matthew, and he's told me then I want to be putting together a newsletter. I want to be putting together a series of documents I want to send out. Maybe, once they sign up on my website, I collect their name, and then there's going to be maybe 12 different emails that I send out. Am I selling in each of these emails? Am I going, thank you very much, you've signed up, and do you want to buy this? And email number 2 is going to be, do you want to buy this as well? I mean, what do I write in those emails, and what do I put in my newsletter, Steve?
Well, the key thing, you got to write. What I would do is you have this very, very intense briefing session first of all, because I've got to get in as a writer, which is, if you like, I am the messenger, and I'm the person who's doing the translation on behalf of the client. The first thing I've got to do is understand my client, understand what they want and where they're going to, and the sort of support they need. And the benefit of, over the years, working with so many different types of companies, from big multinationals to one-man bands, as I have done, the main thing I then do is that I can speak to clients and say, by the way, are you sure you really want to do that? Have you tried this, and what do you think about that? So I can actually act as a consultant as well as purely doing the writing, but the main point about it is to try to find out when they want to do it, so in terms of timing, who they're aiming at, what their budget is, how much they've got to spend, when do they want to actually to run.
Is it expensive? Budget. Is it expensive? Do I need to spend the money to get the results?
Well, clearly it depends on... You can normally put together a different package depending on how much you've got to spend and where you want to do it, where you want to spend it, how you want to spend it, and what you want to achieve. For example, there are people who want to put something highly professional, but only in a very small localized area. And in fact, Google these days love the fact that you can concentrate on just Surrey, for example.
This is local SEO, isn't it, which we were talking about last week.
That's right. And it may well be that your objective is just to tell your key customers, but once again, it may be that you're interested in just talking to the trade, or that you've got something together that you want to inform your sales force. So it may be a company sort of internal communication they want to do. So you have to go through all of this so that you can find exactly what it is that the client wants to achieve, both in terms of distribution, sales, image, and so on and so forth.
Is there not a danger, though, when we fire this kind... I mean, we've got the tools sitting here with Matthew. Is there not the danger that we make the job so big that people just end up shying away from it and maybe not doing it right at all in the end? I mean, is there a simplistic approach that you can do? Is there a bit of suck it and see kind of technique that you can use when it comes to maybe putting together a plan to market your business?
Well, absolutely, because when you're producing a new product, for example, and I've worked with companies where you're trying something completely new, you test market it, you test it, and then you'll be speaking to Matthew and say, now we want to run this, but we need to actually get some sort of validation for how it went, how many people looked at it, what their response was, and then sometimes then you'll bring in little research groups, and you'll be talking and you'll be getting reactions from real life people about what you said and where you did it correctly, and people run research programs alongside the work that you do, and then once you've got the necessary, shall we say, the good word of mouth back, and you're doing the right things, and you hit a sort of critical mass with it, then you roll it out. Then you can go, and so you can do it things as it fits with time and money and budgets, and slowly you build it. Carefully over time, so you can just see that you've got it right, because very few people get it right first time.
Now, one of the things I want to find, and it's true, people don't get it right first time. They actually think about it, they formalize the ideas. Something that seemed to be a good idea at the very beginning, oh, that's us, I'll just pause that for a moment. The thing that's interesting about that is that once they do get it right, then they've at least you've got the tools here that you can actually change it.
And the confidence.
Now, what I was just going to do, I just gone onto the Business Connections Live website, businessconnectionslive.com, and I've got our autoresponder just sitting down there on the right-hand side. Matthew, when it comes to the autoresponders, or when we're collecting the different names that we're using, is there a right way to be wording this? How do we entice people to actually fill it in? We're only asking for the full name and the email address on there. And in fact, the back end of that is being actually collected by our website. And then it's also sending it out to our autoresponder, our database that's been generated there. But how do you go about making certain that you're getting that part of it right when it comes to actually making certain the design makes somebody call to action or gives them a call to action?
Well, it's really keeping it nice and clean, because at the end of the day, if people can't find it, and if it doesn't say what they're actually signing up for, then the chances are you're going to put people off. So therefore, you need to make it nice and clean and simple. Declutter it, make it almost, dare I say, idiot-proof. So people can just simply find it, sign up to it, and they know what they can expect from it. And people will do.
So really, it's about keeping it simple, stupid then, isn't it, I suppose?
It is, but at the same time, you've got to give people a reason why they should actually sign up as well. So something that obviously, the way that we're having this conversation this evening, the way that we're chatting, the way that we're throwing out ideas, the way that we're helping and suggesting different things, if you get people saying, look, what did you think of the program? What comment did you have on it? And so you have creating a forum, for business connections, and so that people can come in and then they can then tweet what they've said, and then it can be broadcast, and then once again it all folds back, doesn't it? It all sort of leads back and enriches the whole when we're word out about what you're doing here, about the programming and about the way that it's useful and it's helpful, and giving really good advice, and there's interesting people on, like Matthew, for example. And it's really, really worthwhile. And if you get that interaction, then that's when you really start to build.
Listen, you're quite interesting too, actually, if you don't mind me saying. Not only is Matthew interesting. I've been an interesting 60 minutes. I'm sure you would agree on that. We've looked at so many different things, and yet only really scratch the surface of what you can do with autoresponders, automatic emails, collecting names, client names, so that you've actually got yourself a mailing list, and then actually getting your information out there. Gentlemen, what I'd like to do is, and we do it every week, it's nearly our little perfect pitch. We'd like to ask you to just look straight down the appropriate camera and to give us the key things that people should be going away with at the end of this program this evening. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll talk to Matthew first of all. Matthew, if you can give us maybe 2-3 minutes, or even less than that. So give us a minute or so on what is key about coming to your business, and why it is key about talking to you to get certain that you get the right product to build my business and customer list. Away you go.
Yeah. So, we offer a full service. At the end of the day, it's not just buying into our system, which is cheap as chips and very manageable. but you also get access to us and all the great resources that we build, so you can pick our brains and you can ask us to look over your campaigns and your website and suggest different things for you. So we can help walk you through that whole process of catching that passive traffic from your website, putting it into the system, all automatic, so you don't have to worry about anything, and then actually helping you build that sales process and those automated emails and that almost a marketing strategy where you can then start to really engage with people on a one-to-one basis without actually sending out those one-to-one emails. You could be communicating with hundreds of people within one click and finding out that core information of who's opening your email, who's clicking links, what time of day should you be communicating with people. So you get all this food for thought that you can then take a step back, look at it with us as well, and we can guide you and say, well, actually, let's start segmenting your database. Let's start really targeting people on their behavior and what they're doing with your communications to get success. And we don't tie people into contracts either. So we want people to love our system and to see the great results from it. And we build that relationship with you.
Fantastic, Matthew. I think that pretty much sums it all up, really, doesn't it? That's fantastic. The email address to actually go to InTouch CRM is actually on the copy below this particular video. In fact, it may well be on the video if you're watching this on YouTube right now. And fantastic advice and really some real food for thought. All right, Steve, then, from your point of view, what are the key things that people should be thinking about when it comes to writing that copy?
First of all, most importantly, it's not about you. It's about them. And what you should be thinking about is what it is that you've got that people want to hear about, what they want to work on, what is actually going to be really persuasive to them. Absolutely crucial. And remember that when you're putting this together, you have to pitch it in the right way. So whoever you are talking to, make sure that you understand the niche that you're talking to, the people that you want to actually influence, convert, whatever you want them to do. It is a question of getting inside their heads. And one thing that you really want to do is, at all costs, avoid the word being passionate about everything. I don't know if you've noticed that at the moment everybody's saying, oh, I'm passionate about this, I'm passionate about that, I'm passionate about vegetables, I'm passionate about that, our company is so passionate about it. Everybody goes, what you're really about is you're passionate about making money. So try to avoid that and sort of do it in the way that you could say that, right, I'm passionate about life or interesting stuff, and that's what you really want. You want to actually to be people about developing their business and their way that they should be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. I tell you what, absolutely fascinating, and there's no two ways about it. Once again, the pair of you have nailed it on the head. I just feel that 1 hour just hasn't been long enough. We've talked a lot about the theory, and the pair of you, fantastic guests. So thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening on Business Connections Live. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Just a quick reminder about Steve's book, Success Before You Start Up, and the other one, Fast Track Your Business Writing Skills. Just 2 great books available from Amazon now. Buy now while stocks last. And just remind us once again, Matthew, of the email address so that we can get your fabulous product and use it free for a month.
www.intouchcrm.co.uk.
It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Hey, listen, we're going to be back again next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Can I also just say the NLP program that we're going to be doing is going to be going out just after Christmas. So that's going to be something to look forward to. I'm sure the pair of you are going to be back. I can guarantee the pair of you are going to be coming back in the very near future. So thank you very much for being with us tonight.
It's been fun.
And from all the team here, we do hope you've actually enjoyed the program. We've got a cracking one for you all lined up as well next week. If you go to the website, you'll be able to find out more about that as well. But from me, Steve Highland, the rest of the team at Business Connections Live, we hope you've enjoyed the show. And until next week, from all of us, it's bye for now. Bye-bye.